Emergency transmission from the void. The crystalline spires of New Kelthar gleamed like jewels against the purple sky as High Counselor Vextai reviewed the morning reports from his orbital palace. The Keltharian homeworld had known peace for over 3 centuries, its people dedicated to art, philosophy, and the gentle sciences that had made them respected throughout the Galactic Federation. Vextai, elongated fingers, each ending in a delicate sensor pad, danced across the holographic displays showing trade routes, cultural exchanges, and diplomatic correspondence. The tranquility shattered without warning. Emergency klaxons began wailing throughout the palace as Vextai essayed. A young Keltharian named Lethera burst into the chamber. Her usually luminescent blue skin had turned pale with fear. "Hi, Counselor, we're receiving distress signals from the outer colonies. Something is attacking our mining stations in the Helix Nebula." Vextai rose from his meditation pod, his 7-foot frame moving with the fluid grace of his people. "Attacking? We have no enemies." "Lethara, perhaps it's a natural phenomenon, a solar flare or asteroid impact." "No, sir. The transmissions clearly show artificial constructs. Metallic entities that appear to be consuming our facilities and converting the materials into more of themselves." Lethara's voice trembled as she activated the main communication. "Array, Colony 7 went dark 20 minutes ago. Colony 5 is under siege now." The main display flickered to life, showing a grainy transmission from the mining station on Kelthar 5 through the static. Vextai could see his people running in terror as geometric shapes swarmed through the corridors. The shapes moved with mechanical precision, tearing apart everything in their path and somehow incorporating the materials into their own forms. Within moments, the transmission ended in a burst of white noise. "Get me the Federation Council." Immediately, Vextai commanded, his calm demeanor cracking, "and mobilize our defense fleet." "Sir, our defense coordinator reports that these entities are not responding to any communication attempts. Our energy shields are having minimal effect, and they seem to adapt to our plasma weapons after the first few hits." Lethera paused, checking her readings. Colony 5 has gone silent as well. Across the galaxy, the Galactic Federation Council chamber erupted in urgent discussions as representatives from hundreds of worlds gathered virtually to address the crisis. The chamber itself was a marvel of engineering, a massive sphere floating in space where beings from across the galaxy could meet in controlled atmospheric conditions suited to their physiology. General Thurok of the Vorthok hegemony stood at his delegation's platform, his reptilian features set in a permanent scowl. The Vorthok were a proud warrior race who served as the Federation's primary military force, their massive frames and natural armor making them formidable soldiers. "High Counselor Vextai, with respect, the Keltharians have always relied on Federation protection. Your people chose the path of peace over military strength. This is the consequence." "The consequence, General, is that an unknown force is destroying one of our member worlds," replied Ambassador Zindar of the Ethereal Collective, her energy-based form flickering with agitation. "We need solutions, not blame." Vextai's holographic image appeared in the center of the chamber, his desperate plea echoing through the vast space. "Honored representatives, in the 6 hours since this crisis began, we have lost 12 colonies and 3 asteroid mining facilities. Our defense fleet engaged the entities 4 hours ago. They lasted 37 minutes. A murmur of shock rippled through the assembly. The Keltharian defense fleet, while small, was equipped with standard Federation technology that should have been more than adequate against most threats. What exactly are we facing? asked Councillor Murntagh of the Trade Alliance, his slug-like form glistening under the chamber's artificial lights. Mechanical constructs of unknown origin, Vexdai explained, his image flickering as his transmission weakened. They appear to be self-replicating, using consumed materials to create more units. They adapt to our weapons after minimal exposure and show no interest in communication or negotiation. They simply consume and expand. General Thurok stepped forward, his massive fists clenched. The Vorthok 3rd Battle Group can reach Keltharian space in 18 hours. My warriors will crush these machines. General, our energy weapons proved ineffective after the first engagement, Vexdai warned. These entities learn and adapt with frightening speed. Then we will adapt faster, Thurok growled, but uncertainty crept into his voice. Ambassador Zindar's form pulsed with concern. If these constructs are truly self-replicating and adaptive, they represent a threat to the entire galaxy. We need unconventional solutions. From a smaller platform in the corner of the chamber, a voice spoke up that caused a momentary silence. Perhaps it's time to consider the humans. The suggestion came from Diplomat Kelanash of the Scientific Directorate, a thin, grey-skinned being whose people were known for their analytical minds. His statement caused an immediate uproar among the assembly. The humans? General Thurok's laugh was harsh and dismissive. Those primitive Death Welders, they've barely achieved faster-than-light travel. Their weapons are crude kinetic projectiles and chemical explosives. Exactly, Kelanash replied calmly. While we have spent millennia perfecting energy-based weapons and defensive systems, the humans have developed along entirely different lines. Their world, Earth, is classified as a Class 12 death world. Everything there competes violently for survival. Ambassador Zindar's form brightened with interest. You're suggesting their primitive technology might be immune to adaptation. I'm suggesting that their entire military philosophy is based on redundancy, overkill, and the assumption that the enemy will adapt to their tactics. They plan for failure and develop backup plans for their backup plans. The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Most Federation species had evolved on stable worlds with predictable environments. They had developed elegant, efficient solutions to problems. Humans came from a world that constantly tried to kill them, forcing them to develop brutal, redundant, and often wasteful solutions that ensured survival. The humans established a small embassy station in the Terran system 6 months ago, continued Kelanash. Their fleet consists of crude vessels that our children could design better, but their weapon systems are ... extensive. You want us to ask for help from beings who are barely space-capable. Thurok's voice dripped with disdain. I want us to survive, Kelanash replied simply. Our elegant energy weapons adapt, shield, and defend. Human weapons destroy, overwhelm, and overkill. Against an adaptive enemy, perhaps crude and overwhelming, is exactly what we need. The debate continued for precious minutes, while reports from Keltharian space grew increasingly dire. Finally, Federation Chancellor Mordin called for an emergency vote. The ancient sage being rarely spoke, but when he did, the galaxy listened. The motion is to request immediate military assistance from Earth in dealing with the mechanical threat to Keltharian space. All in favor. The vote was close, but desperation won over pride. The message was sent. Meanwhile, at Lunar Station, orbiting Earth's moon, Admiral Sarah Chen was reviewing fleet readiness reports when the priority transmission arrived. Chen was a compact woman in her 50s, her grey-streaked black hair pulled back in a regulation bun. She had earned her rank through 30 years of service, starting as a pilot in the Mars Colony Defense Force and working her way up through every level of command. Admiral, called Lieutenant Commander Jackson from the communications station. We're receiving a priority transmission from the Galactic Federation Council. It's marked as an emergency request for military assistance. Chen raised an eyebrow. In the 6 months since first contact, the Federation had been polite but condescending, treating humanity like promising children who might someday be useful. An emergency request was unprecedented. Put it through to my ready room, Chen ordered. Alone in her office, Chen listened to the translated message from High Counselor Vexti. The words painted a picture of a rapidly escalating crisis. Mechanical entities that consumed everything in their path, adapted to conventional weapons, and showed no signs of stopping. The Federation's mighty fleets were helpless. Chen activated her secure communication array and contacted Earth Command. Within minutes, she was speaking directly with Fleet Admiral Rodriguez, the head of Earth's space forces. "Sarah, I've reviewed the Federation data," Rodriguez said, his weathered face serious on the screen. "These mechanical entities are unlike anything in our databases, but they share characteristics with theoretical von Neumann machines." Self-replicating probes, Chen nodded. "If that's what we're dealing with, energy weapons would be useless after the first encounter. They'd adapt and incorporate countermeasures. Exactly. But our kinetic weapons, electromagnetic pulse systems, and good old-fashioned explosives might catch them off guard." Rodriguez paused, studying reports on his end. "I'm authorizing deployment of the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet under your command. Full wartime loadout. Sir, the Federation has been less than welcoming since first contact. Why risk our people for them?" Rodriguez smiled grimly. "Because if these machines finish with the Federation, Earth is next. And because it's time to show the galaxy what humans are capable of when we're properly motivated." 2 hours later, the 3rd Expeditionary Fleet departed Lunar Station bound for Caltharian space. The fleet consisted of 12 ships, 4 heavy cruisers, 6 destroyers, and 2 support vessels. By Federation standards, they were tiny and primitive, little more than metal boxes covered in weapon pods and armor plating. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UES Defiance, watching the stars shift as they entered hyperspace. Her tactical officer, Captain Marcus Torres, approached with final readiness reports. "All ships report ready for combat, Admiral. Kinetic weapon systems at full capacity, EMP warheads armed, and point defense grids online." Torres was a veteran of the Belt Wars, where humans had learned to fight in the vacuum of space, using whatever weapons were available. His ship, the destroyer US Vengeance, was known throughout the fleet for its aggressive tactics and innovative solutions to impossible problems. "What's our estimated arrival time?" Chen asked. 36 hours to the Caltharian system, assuming we don't run into any of these mechanical entities along the way, Torres replied. "Admiral, what if the Federation is wrong about our weapons being effective?" Chen smiled, an expression that would have worried any enemy who saw it. "Then we improvise, Captain. It's what humans do best." As the human fleet raced through hyperspace toward an unknown enemy, desperate transmissions continued to arrive from Caltharian space. The mechanical entities had consumed half the system and were accelerating their expansion. Time was running out, and the galaxy's last hope rested with a species that most Federation members considered barely civilized. But Admiral Sarah Chen had fought in the Belt Wars, the Mars Rebellion, and the Titan Station siege. She had learned to win battles against superior enemies using inferior equipment through superior tactics, redundant planning, and sheer bloody-minded determination. The machines were about to learn why humans called their homeworld a death world, and why survival on Earth required becoming very good at killing things that wanted to kill you first. When Deathworlders unite the galaxy, the Keltharian system had become a graveyard of metal and dreams. Where once beautiful crystal cities had orbited gas giants, now only twisted wreckage remained, slowly being consumed by geometric shapes that moved with relentless purpose. Admiral Sarah Chen watched a tactical display on the bridge of the UES Defiance as her fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. "Jesus Christ," whispered Lieutenant Hayes from the sensor station. The young officer had never seen anything like the destruction spread across his screens. "Admiral, I'm reading massive mechanical activity throughout the system. These things have consumed 3 planets and are working on a 4th. Captain Torres joined Chen at the central display, his weathered face grim as he studied the sensor. "Data. Ma'am, we're detecting a small cluster of Federation ships near the second moon of Kelthor Prime. Looks like survivors. Signal them that help has arrived," Chen ordered. "And get me a tactical analysis of these mechanical entities." Dr. Elena Busquez, the fleet's xenobiology specialist, had been analyzing the Federation data during their journey. She approached the command group carrying a portable analysis unit, her dark eyes intense with concentration. "Admiral, I believe we're dealing with von Neumann probes from an extinct civilization. They're programmed to gather resources and replicate, but their original programming has been corrupted or their creators are long dead." "Meaning?" Chen asked. "Meaning they can't stop. They'll consume everything organic and inorganic until there's nothing left, then move on to the next system." Vasquez paused, checking her readings. "The good news is that they're following predictable patterns. They prioritize high energy sources and dense material concentrations." The communication array crackled to life with a weak transmission from the surviving Federation ships. High Counselor Vextai's voice was hoarse with exhaustion. "Unknown human vessels, this is High Counselor Vextai of the Keltharian Republic. We have been holding position here for 18 hours while these machines strip our homeworld bare. Our weapons are completely ineffective. High Counselor, this is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Space Navy. We received your distress call and are here to assist. What's your current situation, Admiral Chen? We have approximately 3,000 survivors aboard 7 vessels. Our homeworld is lost, and the machines are expanding their operations to consume our moon bases. We estimate they will reach our position in 4 hours." Chen turned to her tactical team. "Options." Torres stepped forward, his scarred hands moving over the tactical display. "Ma'am, these things are swarming like insects, but they're following predictable patterns. They seem to prioritize larger targets and energy sources. If we can draw them away from the Federation survivors, you want to use ourselves as bait. It's what we do best, Admiral. Get them focused on us, then hit them with everything we've got before they can adapt." Chen nodded, then activated the fleet communication system. "All ships, this is Admiral Chen. We're going to engage the enemy to draw them away from Federation survivors. Load kinetic rounds, arm EMP warheads, and prepare for close quarters combat. Remember, these things adapt to energy weapons, so we stick to good old-fashioned projectiles and explosives." The human fleet moved into the system with a formation that would have horrified Federation tacticians. Instead of the elegant, energy-efficient approaches favored by most civilized species, The humans spread out in a loose pattern that gave each ship maximum firing arcs and room to maneuver. The mechanical entities noticed the new rivals immediately. Thousands of geometric shapes, ranging from small fighters to massive constructs, the size of battleships, began moving toward the human fleet with mechanical precision. "Contact in 3 minutes," reported Lieutenant Hayes. "Admiral, these things are big. Some of them are reading as large as our heavy cruisers." "Size doesn't matter if you can't adapt to what's hitting you," Chen replied calmly. "All ships, weapons free. Show them what Earth's children learned from our beautiful, deadly world." The first exchange would be talked about in military academies for centuries afterward. The mechanical entities opened fire with energy weapons that could slice through Federation shields like paper. But human ships weren't designed around elegant energy shields. They were armored with layers of steel, ceramic, and composite materials designed to absorb and deflect kinetic impacts. The human response was brutally simple. Kinetic projectiles launched from electromagnetic rails slammed into the mechanical entities at a significant fraction of light speed. Solid tungsten rods punched through adaptive armor that had easily deflected energy beams, creating massive internal damage that the entities couldn't simply heal or adapt to. "Direct hit on the lead construct," reported Torres from his destroyer. "It's trying to adapt, growing thicker armor, but watch this." His ship fired a spread of explosive rounds that detonated inside the wounds created by the kinetic strikes, tearing the mechanical entity apart from within. Dr. Vasquez monitored the enemy's adaptation attempts from her science station. "Admiral, they're trying to modify their armor to deflect kinetic impacts, but they're having trouble with our variable ammunition. Every time they adapt to solid rounds, we switch to explosives. When they adapt to explosives, we hit them with EMP bursts." The mechanical entities, for the first time in their existence, encountered an enemy that planned for their adaptation. Human military doctrine, developed through centuries of warfare on a hostile world, assumed that any enemy would learn and adapt. The solution was to have multiple backup plans and enough redundant systems that adaptation became meaningless. Captain Torres demonstrated this philosophy as his destroyer engaged a massive mechanical construct. When his kinetic rounds proved less effective against its adapted armor, he switched to cluster munitions that spread out before impact, overwhelming the entity's point defenses. When it adapted to cluster munitions, he fired EMP warheads that disrupted its neural networks, then followed up with chemical rounds that interfered with its self-repair systems. "Vengeance to all ships," Torres transmitted. "These things can adapt to specific threats, but they can't handle multiple simultaneous attack vectors. Hit them with everything you've got." The human fleet had brought everything. In addition to kinetic weapons and explosives, they deployed sonic charges that disrupted mechanical cohesion, electromagnetic pulse weapons that confused artificial intelligence systems, and even old-fashioned chemical weapons that corroded mechanical components. Admiral Chen watched the tactical display with satisfaction as the mechanical entities began to fall back for the first time since the crisis began. "Dr. Vasquez, are they retreating?" "Not exactly, Admiral. They're regrouping and trying to analyze our weapons. But here's the interesting part. They're not sharing information efficiently. Each individual entity has to learn our tactics separately, meaning we can defeat them in detail if we keep them from linking up into larger formations." Vasquez's eyes lit up with an idea. "Admiral, what if we could disrupt their communication network?" "Captain Torres, did you catch that?" "Already on it, ma'am. Vengeance is deploying communications jammers. If these things can't talk to each other, they can't coordinate their adaptation efforts. The tide of battle shifted as human electronic warfare systems, designed for the chaotic environments of asteroid mining wars, began disrupting the mechanical entities' coordination. Isolated and confused, the individual machines became much easier targets for human weapons. But the victory was temporary. Long-range sensors detected massive movement from the outer system as reinforcements approached. Dr. Vasquez studied the readings with growing alarm. "Admiral, we've got a problem. The machines are bringing in what looks like a construction facility. If they can establish a base in this system, they'll be able to replicate faster than we can destroy them." Chen studied the sensor data, showing a massive mechanical structure moving slowly toward the inner system. It was easily 10 times the size of her entire fleet, bristling with construction arms and manufacturing capabilities. Time to intercept. 6 hours at current velocity, reported Torres. "But Admiral, that thing is too big for our fleet to handle alone." "Then we don't handle it alone." Chen activated the communication system. "High Counselor Vextai, this is Admiral Chen. We need to talk." 20 minutes later, the human and Federation commanders met virtually in the Defiance's briefing room. High Counselor Vextai's holographic image showed a being pushed to his limits by stress and grief, while General Thurok of the Vorthok hegemony had arrived with reinforcements and was eager to prove his warriors could succeed where elegant weapons had failed. "The situation is simple," Chen explained, showing the tactical display. "We've proven that crude kinetic weapons can damage these entities, but there are too many of them and they're bringing in a construction facility. We need to coordinate our efforts." General Thurok's reptilian features showed skepticism. "Human, your primitive weapons may have won a small engagement, but this requires a proper military response. My battle group has the firepower to destroy this construction facility. General, with respect, your energy weapons will be useless after the first few shots. These things adapt too quickly." Chen manipulated the display to show combat footage from the recent engagement, "But your ships have excellent sensors and communication systems. We need coordination more than firepower." Dr. Vasquez leaned forward. "General, what if we combined approaches? Your ships could provide sensor data and coordinate targeting while our ships provide the actual firepower. You want Vorthok warriors to serve as mere spotters for human weapons." Thurok's growl was dangerous. "I want Vorthok warriors to be the reason we win this fight," Chen replied firmly. "Your people are the finest military minds in the galaxy. Help us use that." The plan that emerged was unprecedented in Federation history. Vorthok ships would use their superior sensors to identify weak points and coordinate targeting, while human ships provided kinetic fire support. Keltharian vessels, with their advanced communication systems, would serve as command and control platforms. High Counselor Vexti looked between the two military commanders. "This cooperation you're proposing, it's not how the Federation usually operates." "High Counselor," Chen said quietly, "this isn't a usual situation. These machines will consume your entire civilization if we don't stop them here. Sometimes survival requires changing how we think." The combined fleet moved toward the massive construction facility with human ships in the lead and Federation vessels providing support. General Surog, despite his initial resistance, proved to be an excellent tactical coordinator. His ability to process multiple data streams and coordinate complex maneuvers complemented the human preference for direct action and overwhelming firepower. "Target designations coming in from Vorthok sensors," reported Torres from his destroyer. identified the facility's power distribution network. All ships, concentrate fire on designated targets, Chen ordered. Continuous barrage, don't give them time to adapt. The battle for the construction facility lasted 3 hours and resulted in the complete destruction of the mechanical threat in the Keltharian system, but more importantly, it established a new model for Federation military cooperation. In the aftermath, as human and alien crews worked together to search for survivors and clear debris, something unprecedented happened. General Thurok approached Admiral Chen personally to discuss military tactics. High Counselor Vexter requested detailed information about human military training programs. Species that had barely acknowledged each other were sharing technology and tactical knowledge, Admiral Dr. Vasquez said as she reviewed the post-battle analysis. We've done something remarkable here. We've shown the Federation that different approaches to problems can be more effective than any single solution. Chen nodded, watching alien and human crews working together to repair damaged ships. Dr. Vasquez, I think we've done more than win a battle. We've started something new. 6 months later, the Galactic Federation established its first joint military training facility on Luna, with Admiral Sarah Chen as its first commandant. Human instructors taught redundant planning and kinetic warfare to alien students, while Federation teachers shared advanced sensors and communication technologies with human officers. The mechanical threat had been contained and eventually eliminated using combined human Federation tactics. But the real victory was the realization that the galaxy's strength lay not in any single species' abilities, but in the combination of different approaches to survival and success. As Chen often told her students at the lunar facility, the universe is vast and dangerous, but it's a lot less dangerous when different people work together and learn from each other's strengths. The Deathworlders had not only saved the galaxy, they had shown it how to save itself.